Losing time, I'm fading fast. I just wanna make it last. Try to let go of the past. I close my eyes, embrace the blast. Sleepless nights and headache stack. Restlessness to hell and back. What's my purpose? What do I grab? A slippery surface, a heart attack. And sometimes you just gotta believe there's something that'll give you relief. There's something that'll have what you need. What you need. We're broken, it's tragic. We're not all elastic, but maybe there's magic. Believe you could have it. And I know of sadness, the anxious and panic, the infinite vastness of all that is blackness.
Hello and welcome to a very special episode of The Warrior Within, a New Journey. I'm your host, Jaime Bennett. I do have to insert a trigger warning because of the topic that I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to be talking about controversy in the media and social media realm. So I do need to insert a trigger warning. If any of those topics, me talking about it, is going to trigger you in any way, please turn off this program or watch something else on YouTube or wherever you are watching this. Also, viewer discretion is advised. The opinions in today's program are my opinions and the author's opinions only. They do not represent the opinions of Cosmos Creative Television or Star Raven Studios or any of my audience members. There are opinions and our opinions only, mine and the author's. So, I am no stranger to controversy. I'm no stranger to sensitive topics. I have covered quite a few on this program, and today is a special edition because I felt the need to talk about this particular topic because of recent events. There are so many controversies in the media. There are so many controversies in the world, in society, like everywhere. Across the world, there is something controversial happening right now, this very second. I created this show so that I would have a voice, so that I could bring sensitive topics and controversial topics to the forefront. Because, I want people to be aware that these things are happening, that, what's going on in the world. I want people to be aware of what's going on in the world. And I have had guests on this season, especially of The Warrior Within, and I wanted to have a voice. That's why I created this show, is because I wanted to have a voice. I wanted people to hear me. I wanted people to hear what I had to say, and I didn't want to be censored. A good example of that is, I have talked about this on one of my episodes before. I was in a very, very, very abusive relationship in my past with a ex-fiance, and he censored me. He took advantage of me. He was extremely abusive. I did not have a voice, and me creating this show made me feel like I had a voice, and it has been a healing process for me. And I don't want to censor any of my guests. I don't want to censor anyone. Everybody deserves to have a voice. They deserve to be heard. Even if you do not agree with what they have to say, they deserve to be heard. Everyone deserves to have the freedom of speech. That's why it is called that, freedom of speech. Freedom of speech. People do not need to be censored. They have a right to speak their story. They have a right to tell their truth. Even if you don't agree with them, they have a right to talk. They have a right to tell their story. So I do have a degree, a bachelor's degree in broadcasting. Um, so I was a mass media student, and what my professors had always taught me is to become a good journalist, you have to push your boundaries. You have to challenge your boundaries. You have to challenge your beliefs. Like I said, you're not always going to be doing an interview with somebody that you agree with. You may not agree with any of their viewpoints. You may not agree with anything that they have to say. But, just be respectful, listen to what they have to say, and you might walk away from the interview learning something. You might walk away from the interview having a different viewpoint. They may walk away from the interview having a different viewpoint. I like knowing why people think the way that they do, why they have that viewpoint. I like hearing people's stories. That's why I've been doing this for 21 years. I love journalism. I love I love hearing people's stories. I love seeing things from a different perspective, even if I don't agree with those perspectives. You just need to challenge yourself, and you need to listen to what another person has to say. How boring would the world be if we all had the same viewpoint, if we all had the same story? They wouldn't be able to make, lifetime movies out of it. They wouldn't be able to come up with much of anything. It would be the same stuff over and over and over. The human brain is very, very complex. We don't all think the same. We don't all feel the same. We all have different stories, and we need to be able to talk about those stories. We need to be able to share those stories, and we need to be able to be comfortable in doing so. Social media has come a long, long way since I got my degree, even. I got my degree in 2005. That ages me. That lets you know how old I am, but that's okay. Um, I'm as young as I want to be. I'm still like a big kid. I collect, Disney animator dolls. If that tells you anything at all. But yes, what my professors always taught me is you need to challenge yourself and you need to go outside of your realm of comfort. And it may make you uncomfortable, but that's going to be the really good stories. That's going to be the really, really good interviews, are the ones that make you extremely uncomfortable. I'm not saying that if you're wanting to get into journalism, if you're wanting to do this for a living, I'm not saying, for example, I'm not saying to go to a prison and talk to a prisoner. I'm not saying to do that if that makes you extremely uncomfortable. I'm just saying don't take it out of the realm of possibilities when you do your interviews. You need to think outside of the box, and you need to challenge yourself. Um, I have done interviews with people that I haven't agreed with. I have done interviews with people that have an extremely different viewpoint than myself, and I walked away from those interviews learning something. I walked away from those interviews, having challenged myself and kind of seeing things from a different viewpoint and thinking about things differently. Um, so yeah, there is so much controversy in the media and social media. Back when I got my degree, we didn't have TikTok. We didn't have Facebook. We didn't have Twitch or Twitter. It was just YouTube, and YouTube was basically just getting started. It wasn't as popular of a platform as it is now. Um, just, think about that. Think about that for a moment. Things were a little bit simpler back then because, we had, what is it? Instead of Facebook, we had MySpace. That tells you what era I am from. But we had like MySpace, and we didn't have the block button. We didn't have the ability to be like, oh, well, I don't like how they're dressed. I don't like how they look. I don't like what they're about. I don't like their belief system. Block, delete, delete, block. You know, we didn't have that ability. If we had a disagreement with somebody, you just hang up the phone. That's basically what it entailed. Um, so, yeah, the opinions on today's show, like I said, are my opinions and the author's opinions only. So let's dive into this. I'm going to actually be looking this up while I'm talking to you all. And I'm sorry if my computer makes noises. I really need to get my computer fixed. I don't know what's going on with it, so I apologize. But we're going to look up controversy in the media. There are so many controversial things in the media. Um, let's see what they have to say. So here is people ask, what is a controversial topic? A controversial topic is a prolonged public dispute or debate. Controversial topics are typically played out through public channels like news, media, electoral politics, and social media. And they always said, like, the best thing to not talk about at the dinner table, the best thing not to talk about when you have a show is religion, politics. Um, then there's a good reason behind that. It starts arguments. I'm not going to tell you what religion I am because that's not what this show is about. We're not going to argue about religion. Feel free to make comments. Feel free to ask questions. This is a pre-recorded show. I will try to pop into the comments when the show is playing live. So I will be trying to keep an eye on all of your comments. I may not be able to keep up, but feel free to make comments. Feel free to ask questions. I don't mind. Just please be kind about your comments and please be kind about your questions. I'm not doing this show to cause any conflict. I'm not doing this show to cause any upset or anything in the realm of negativity. I just think that this show is very, very important to do. It's a very, very important topic. Because there is so much going on in the media. I have to be honest, folks. I have to be extremely honest here. I was in the United States Air Force, and I can't tell you everything about my time in the United States Air Force because, um, I need to not talk about it. But beyond that, um, ever since I was in the United States Air Force and when I came home, I have not watched the news. And there is a huge reason behind me not watching the news. I went into the United States Air Force with friends. I went in there with people that I had become friends with, that I got to know. My sister flight, my brother flight, my comrades. I went in there with a bunch of people that I care about. And I did not want to come home and turn on the news and find out that one of my dear friends, one of the people that I had been in the Air Force with, had a military accident. I did not want to find that out, so I have to be honest. I don't really watch the news much. But people do tell me about like the things that are going on. My husband watches the news a lot. And so I do find out about what's going on. It may be a few days later, but I do find out. And that's why I am looking at this stuff and looking it up while I am talking to you all. Because we're going to research it together. I thought about researching it last night before I even decided to do this show, but I wanted it to be organic. I wanted to talk about this organically. Um, I have had I have had people I have had people be hateful toward me because I am in the media. A good example of that is when I was a radio DJ, people would call in and request songs. And one night, a young woman decided to call in and pretend to be in labor, of all things, and just kept calling and kept harassing me. And I told her, I said, well, you need to go to the hospital if that's the issue. You don't need to be calling a radio station. But I had a lot of prank calls, even with doing this show, doing the topics and subjects that I have done. I have received some hate for that. But I'm not going to let it silence my voice because I want to help people. I want to help people realize that they're not alone. I want to help people realize that, these things are going on, and I want to give people a voice, and I want to have a voice. I want to teach my daughter that she does not need to be silenced, that she has a voice, and that together, we help one each other out. I can't even talk today. If we help each other out, there we go. If we help each other out, we are a stronger force. So I want to teach my daughter to be a powerful force, to have a powerful voice. I don't want her to be silenced, and I don't want anybody else to be silenced. Everybody has a voice, and they deserve to be heard. So there is several articles. There is a list. It says 15 social media controversies the world can never forget. So let's go into that, since social media seems to be bigger, like a bigger platform. So if you go to www.cleaver.com/15-social-media-controversies-the-world-can-never-forget. I think you get the point here. So let's dive into it. So one of them is Kim Kardashian's Virgin Mary candle. They're known for, the Kardashians, of course, are known for keeping the rumor mill busy, and Kim, out of them all, takes the most credit. She has a long list of social media controversies, and apparently Kim shared some Photoshopped pictures of her as a Virgin Mary. So yes, that would be very, very controversial. Like I said, religion is one of the taboo topics, the topics that you're not supposed to talk about at the dinner table. McDonald's anti-Trump tweet. Yes, Trump and politics. Politics is another one that you're not supposed to talk about. Was a very, very controversial. It's a very controversial topic, and it's one to not talk about at the dinner table. Apparently, people have fun with Photoshop a little too much, and sometimes that causes controversy. Surprise, surprise. And one of them, I'm probably not going to read the whole list. One of them apparently was Ellen DeGeneres and Usain Bolt. Ellen's alleged Usain Bolt tweet during the Rio Olympics. Apparently, she shared an edited image that showed her riding the back of Jamaican star. So yes, people have fun with Photoshop, and a lot of time that does cause controversy. You always need to not censor what you have to say, but be careful with what you share. If you don't want to have controversy and you don't want people causing you problems, sending you hate messages, you just got to be really, really careful and really careful about your wording, really careful with what you share, with what you say, and that goes for photos as well. You just need to be really careful about things. There are ways of doing things tactfully and still not censoring what you have to say. You can do it tactfully. Um, so another one is Bianca Jagger's defamed MPS, a model turned human rights activist. Bianca Jagger was wildly criticized for her Twitter post in 2016. She shared a list about UK MPs who had once showed their support for the Iraq War in 2003. Through this tweet, she wanted to express her support for Labour Party leader Jeremy Corbyn. However, the link that was shared by Bianca included a whole list of racist, homophobic, and anti-Semitic references about many of the politicians. So yes, that was a huge controversy, and there are many different subjects that are controversial. Some of them are like celebrities sharing pictures of their children. Like it stands from slight to very, very, very controversial. Um, there's just so much controversy in the media. Like I said, I'm not going to read all of it. You guys can look that up and dive deeper into that, because I just want to, share my experience. Like I said, I used to get prank calls when I was a radio DJ. I've gotten some hate for having this show. And this show has been on for quite a while. The show has been around since I think 2020 or 2021. I don't even remember. I've done quite a few seasons of this show, and this show is a major passion project for me. I love doing this show. I love interviewing people, and I especially love interviewing people that don't share the same viewpoints as myself, because I love to dive deep into that, and I love finding out why they believe the way that they believe. I like hearing their story. And there are so many interesting people out there. If you cut yourself off from interviewing people who don't share the same belief system as you, you're going to be cutting yourself off from an interesting story. I mean, there are so many people out there that have interesting stories, interesting viewpoints. All of our brains work differently, and how amazing is that? That's just extremely amazing that we all have different stories. We all come from different places in our lives, different age groups. I'm not going to be like, well, a 20-year-old journalist doesn't have the gusto that I have. Like, they're not as bold as me, so I'm not going to talk to them. No, I'm not going to be that way, because, a 20-year-old journalist can teach me a thing or two. They may have been taught differently in their journalism classes. They may have been told different things. And so we can each teach each other. We can learn from one another. And that's how I see an interview with someone that I don't exactly agree with. I'm learning. I'm learning how the brain operates. I'm learning different people's stories. I am doing research, and I'm doing research and trying to improve upon my journalism. I love being a journalist. I love writing stories. I love talking about different topics. And I'm very passionate about this. And, you get a passionate journalist, that's just incredible. Like, think of the stories that could come from that person who has done research, who has talked to many different walks of life, what stories they have to tell. Um, it's incredible. Geraldo Rivera, I'm gonna bring him up because not everybody agreed with him. Um, Not everybody liked his format and how he did journalism. Not everybody liked liked the topics that he would cover. And he would get out there. He would get out there right in the middle of a war zone and do it. Like he would do interviews. He would cover topics. And do you realize how many threats that man has probably received in his lifetime just because he pushed his boundaries, he challenged himself, and he covered very controversial topics? I'm not telling you that to be a good journalist that you have to cover controversial topics, but you need to keep an open mind and you need to not shy away from those topics. You need to do your research, look into it. Like what I do whenever I have a guest on my show, if I've never heard of them, I look them up. I look at their social media platforms. I watch their TikToks if they have a TikTok, and I see what they're all about. Um, and I'm going to keep saying this. Some of them I don't agree with. I don't agree with their TikTok reels. And some of them have received hate for their TikTok reels. And I can't understand that. Like I cannot understand that. Maybe I'm naive to that, but like you don't have to be hateful just because you don't agree with someone. You don't have to spread hate. You can just not say anything at all. If you disagree with them but you want to tell them your viewpoint, do it tactfully, do it politely. You don't have to be hateful, and you don't have to call them out on things. You don't have to, you know, be hateful with your comments. You don't have to attack them just because they don't have the same viewpoint as you. I know that there's quite a few TikTok people who, TikTokers as they call them, who have received hate for their viewpoints, and that's censoring somebody. That is censoring somebody and preventing them from telling their story. That is censoring them and preventing them from giving you their viewpoint. If you don't like their viewpoint and it's going to trigger you, then don't watch. It's that simple. Like, do not watch. If you don't like this episode of The Warrior Within, um, it's it's not me trying to upset you. It's not me trying to make you angry or get your blood boiling or anything like that. It is just me talking about a topic that needs to be talked about. So, you don't have to watch this program. If you don't agree with what I have to say and it's triggering you and it's upsetting you, please don't watch this program. Please turn the channel. Um, for all of those of you that are watching, I do appreciate you. And if you don't agree with me, that's cool. We don't have to agree. Just be kind. That's all I ask, is to be kind to one another. You do not have to be hateful just because you don't agree with someone. It's as easy as turning this channel off. So do your research. Do your research. I'm one of these people that back when I was getting my degree in the university, I was a lot more shy than I am now. I wasn't quite as outspoken as I am now, but I'm in my 40s. I have lived life. I have dealt with a lot of things in my lifetime, and I have experience. I have experience with many different things. I have experience with being a guitarist and dealing with those things. What I mean by that is, sometimes musicians receive hate, just like the rest of the media industry. You get somebody who doesn't agree with the song that you're singing, or doesn't like how you look. Like, there's so many things that people don't agree with. Somebody may be watching this right now and say they don't like the way I look. They don't like my hair. They don't like the fact that I'm wearing a Fender shirt. Maybe they don't like Fender. There are so many things that people can dislike about you and dislike about what you have to say. Um, so here is a good thing to talk about: covering conflict and how the news media handles ethics. You can find this at www.medialit.org. It's covering conflict and how the news media handles ethic controversy. But this is by Ira Rifkin. So a lot of this is going to be in quotations, and the credit goes to Ira Rifkin. Um, they were a wire service reporter in New York City in 1968. They were covering the lengthy public school teacher strike called over the forced transfer of white instructors by a black-dominated local community school board. So it goes all the way back to the 60s. Like, there's many different topics that are controversial: race, religion, um, you know, I could sit here all day and I can name a whole bunch of controversial topics and not even cover them all. I think that it would take me probably 100 episodes of this show to even get close to covering everything and anything that could be considered a controversial topic. When I first brought this show to Renee Yaworski, who is the executive producer, and Dennis Tarvin, they told me nothing is off the table, that I can talk about anything and everything. And I really appreciate that, because that is my voice being heard. That is me being respected in the media industry. And that is what needs to happen more. Um, People need to respect one another. They need to respect boundaries. They need to set boundaries. Sometimes you need to set boundaries, unfortunately, but boundaries need to be set. It's just all about respecting one another. If there is another show host that is younger than me, I respect them. I don't just toss their ideas and what they have to say aside because they're younger than me and they haven't had as much experience as me. They have different experiences than myself, and they can bring a different perspective to the table. They can bring a different perspective to the network, if I can even talk today. So I respect every and anyone's viewpoint, even if I don't agree with it. It's important to see other sides of the coin. It's important to see the other side of the coin. It's important to see how the world works. Like, you're gonna have like 100 different viewpoints about one topic. So it is important to see all the viewpoints. It's important to hear all the viewpoints. That way you're educating yourself about the topic at hand and you're getting different viewpoints. So this particular person was writing about, white instructors by a black-dominated local community school board. And this was in 1968. So they witnessed one demonstration that ended with rocks and bottles being thrown after club swinging police had waded into a crowd of demonstrating blacks to disperse them. Um, So, like, there's that controversy, and controversy has been happening in society for a very long time. This was in 1968, um, and the only reason why we're hearing more about controversy is because, we do have more platforms now. It's not just the news bringing it to us and telling us about things that are happening around the world. It is TikTok, it is Facebook, it is YouTube. Like, there are so many platforms now that people can get on and give you their viewpoint. And like I said, a lot of times TikTokers receive hate because of their viewpoints. Um, there's quite a few TikTokers that receive hate because of their viewpoints. I know one of the communities that is hitting the social media platforms is the LGBTQ community. Um, they have received a lot of feedback. They have received a lot of comments. Um, I'm neutral here. I'm not going to tell you one way or another, but that's just an example of a community that has received a lot of hateful feedback. Um, Politics, that's another one. Like Trump, when he was in office, he received a lot of hateful feedback. He received a lot of hateful comments on social media. Religion, there's a lot of religious communities that receive hateful comments. Like, I really, really wish that, why can't we just all get along? I'm going to say that statement right now. Why can't we all just get along? You do not have to spread the hate. You don't have to say something hateful just because you don't agree with the topic. If you are being triggered by the topic at hand, if you are being triggered by what you are being shown on TikTok or Facebook Reels, just turn your computer off. Go watch Netflix. Um, if I turned the TV off or the computer off every single time there was a topic or somebody saying something that I did not agree with, that I didn't like, that I didn't want to hear, or if there was an image that I didn't want to see, if I turned my computer off or TV off every single time that happened, then I would never watch TV. I would never be on my computer. And there is a whole world outside. There is a whole world outside of your computer and TV. And I feel in order to explore that world, I don't have the money to catch an airplane and to go to different places and do interviews on location. I feel like in order to explore the world, this is me exploring the world. Hello, I'm the warrior within. I'm doing interviews with people from all over, people with different stories, people who have stories that I don't necessarily understand, that I don't agree with, but I'm giving them a chance to tell their story. I'm giving them a chance for us and, you know, whoever watches this show to see their viewpoint, to hear their viewpoint, to hear their story, and see what's going on in the world. Like, it's not just me, you know. I'm talking to my computer screen. I don't see you all. Like, I could pretend that I don't have an audience, and I could pretend that, no one's gonna watch this. Maybe no one will. But, there's a whole world outside this computer screen, and we all have different stories to tell. We all see things differently. Even my daughter and my husband have different viewpoints than myself. They don't always agree with what I have to say. They don't always agree with my tastes in music. Let's give that as an example. They don't always agree with my tastes in music. They don't agree with what movies I pick. Not always. Maybe my husband doesn't want to watch that movie. Maybe my husband doesn't want to listen to that song. You know, we are individuals. We are individual human beings. We're individual living beings that have our way of thinking, that have our stories to tell. And I don't want to be a part of censoring those stories. I don't want to tell somebody, no, you can't talk about that. You can't talk about that at all on my show. You can't say that. You can't say that at all because I don't agree with you. You need to talk in the fashion that I need you to talk in because that's what I agree with. No, I'm not going to censor people. I'm not going to prevent people from telling their story. All I ask is whenever you're a guest on my show, whenever I do have guests on my show, is that they be respectful of me and my audience. Because I love my audience. I have a really, really good audience, and I appreciate each and every one of you who watches this. I respect you. I appreciate you. I see you. I hear you. And, it's the same with my guests. I see them. I hear them. I appreciate them. And I respect them. And I appreciate them for being on my show, for telling their story. It's not easy for people to tell their story. It takes guts a lot of times. It's taking guts for me to even do this program. I hope that I get positive feedback on the show. I hope that people, give me positive comments on the show. And like I said, I did not do this program to upset anyone. I did not do this program to trigger anyone. I did this program because it's very, very, very important, especially with there being more and more platforms that people can speak. Freedom of speech. Freedom of speech, people. There are more platforms that people can tell their story. There are more platforms that people can give you their viewpoint. And just because you don't agree with one person, and let's say you give them feedback, it's not going to stop. It's not going to stop them from having a voice. It's not going to stop them from telling their story. And I don't want to be a part of censoring. I don't want to censor people. I don't want to prevent people from telling their story. A lot of times it's a healing process. I have this show because it's a healing process for me. And I have journeyed a long way from that 23-year-old who had an abusive ex-fiance, an abusive ex-fiance. I have journeyed a long way from that person who was quiet, who never wanted to speak up, who never wanted to tell their story, to the person I am now. And I'm trying to help people to tell their story. It's not easy. It is really not easy. Like I said, doing this episode is not easy for me. Um, I'm nervous, and you may not be able to tell, but I get nervous when I talk about these topics, when I talk about these subjects, because I care. I really, really care about these subjects. I'm very passionate about this show, and I'm very passionate about bringing subjects that need to be talked about to the forefront, no matter how sensitive or triggering they may be. They need to be talked about. They need to be brought to people's attention. Um, and it's not easy. It is not easy to host the show. It's not easy to, tell my story. And I definitely do not want to be a part of censoring somebody's journey. I don't want it to be a part of putting a roadblock in someone's journey. A lot of times people, they finally get to a point where they're brave enough to tell their story, and I don't want to censor that. And I really, 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 really hope that people can be more open-minded. I really hope that people can start listening to other viewpoints. I really hope that people can, um, you know, see different perspectives and not be hateful about it. Kindness is free. Just, be kind. If you don't agree with someone, be kind about it. Don't be hateful. And if you can't be tactful about what you want to say, then just don't say anything to the person. Let them be able to continue their journey. A lot of times it's a healing process, and we don't need to stop that healing process. So if you are thinking about becoming a journalist, if you are thinking about getting into the social media or media realm, just realize that, yeah, you are probably going to receive negative comments because people don't always agree with what you have to say. They don't always agree with how you look or the topic at hand. Just prepare yourself for any and every kind of comment. Challenge yourself, research topics that you know nothing about. A good example of that is I'm not Catholic. I respect Catholics. I respect that religion, but I am not Catholic. And I went to a Catholic university, surprise, surprise, and I knew nothing about Catholicism. I went to that university to expand my horizons and to learn about a different religion. And I ended up making some really, really, really good friends there. And I ended up learning a lot. I learned about Catholicism. I even attended the campus mass on Sundays a lot of the time. And I walked away from that university not only with a degree in mass communications, but also with a different perspective on Catholicism and a newfound respect for that religion. Um, do your research. Research things that you don't know about. Dive into interviews with people who have a different viewpoint than yourself. There are so many walks of life in the world. There are so many people with fascinating stories to tell. So many people who have interesting viewpoints. I like knowing how people tick. I like learning their stories. I like learning, about different viewpoints than myself. And I know that I have repeated myself a lot, but it bears repeating. It really bears repeating. If my daughter decides to go into journalism, I'm going to tell her the same thing. And she might decide to go into journalism. She likes taking photos. She just recently went to an interview with me of a musician, a wonderful musician by the name of Jason Miles. I'll go ahead and plug his name here. And she did some of the photography, and she enjoys it. She might become a photojournalist, and I'm not going to stop her from doing that if that's what she decides to do in life. But I will, teach her what I've been taught. And where she goes from there, who knows? She might decide to become a photojournalist. She might decide not to become a photojournalist. Whatever my daughter decides to do in life, I'm going to stand behind her 100%. So, yeah. I hope that you all have enjoyed this episode. I hope that it was educational and informational. I didn't want to read too much from the internet. I wanted to be more personable about this topic because I have been in the media industry for 21 years. I have interviewed all walks of life. I've interviewed musicians. Um, I've interviewed concert photographers. I have interviewed, you know, Chris Tomlinson, who is an amazing, amazing human being. Tammy Birdwell, who's a concert photographer. My friend Patrick L. Smith, who had an incredible story to tell. Madeline Monitz. I have interviewed quite a few people on this show, and I have interviewed people on my radio show, The Jam Session. But, I have done quite a bit of interviews in my lifetime. And if you are ever interested in being on the show as a guest and you have a story to tell, please leave it in the comments or contact Cosmos Creative Television and they will get you connected with me. I'm always looking for interesting people to interview. I'm always looking for people who have an interesting story to tell. So please don't be shy and reach out and we will get you on the show. I hope you all have enjoyed this episode. I hope that it's been educational and informational. I know that I have repeated myself a lot of the time. I apologize for that, but like I said, it does bear repeating. Until next time, love, hugs, and blessings, and please be kind.
Losing time, I'm fading fast. I just wanna make it last. Try to let go of the past. I close my eyes, embrace the blast. Sleepless nights and headache stack. Restlessness to hell and back. What's my purpose? What do I grab? A slippery surface, a heart attack. And sometimes you just gotta believe there's something that'll give you relief. There's something that'll have what you need. What you need. We're broken, it's tragic. We're not all elastic, but maybe there's magic. Believe you could have it. And I know of sadness, the anxious and panic, the infinite vastness of all that